Hey, how are you guys? It is Harrison Barron from harrisonbarron.com. Now, in this video, I want to talk to you guys about the 10 best questions that you could ask any interviewee for your podcast. Now, these questions you might have to alter and modify just a little bit, but I have used these questions over and over and over again to get my podcast in the top 3% in the world, and you can actually see experts using them. But when you scour the internet looking for the best podcast questions to ask your guests, it's usually never found. So I'm going to dive right in here. We're going to have a grand old time. But I want to also challenge you to think about how you can potentially either add or modify these in your questioning that not only fits your situation, but might even go deeper than I originally planned. So let's jump in here. Right off the bat, the first question is, can you tell us about a challenging moment or obstacle you faced in your career or personal life and how you overcame it? Now, this is, first of all, very open-ended, but second of all, it makes people think, and part of podcasting is you really want to get people to begin to open up about how they feel and why they are the person they are, right? They're on your show, and what did they have to go? What were the trials and tribulations that they actually had to go through to get to the point of where they're at currently on your show? I've used this regularly, and it's probably one of the best openers that you can use. Yeah, you have your fluff in your beginning, tell us who you are, what are you about, but you could dive in, you can drop the hammer with this question, right? Tell us about a challenging moment or obstacle. And most of the time, the guest is going to come up with a opportunity to mention a obstacle or problem or challenge that they came up with that makes them better today, but for your show. So it's kind of skewed in their mind. You're not just asking some random person on the street for advice. They know the show that they're on. And by you asking that, it's a very open-ended question, but also it really makes them think about multiple scenarios, but how they can look like the hero in this situation for your show. It's going to make you look like a host top-notch, right? Right off the bat, you're going to look incredible. But two, it's actually going to make the guest feel like you actually went out and did your research, and it leaves the burden of the thought on them. Now, I'm also a fan of, if you've seen the show Hot Ones, doing your own research on that guest as well, but this is a really, really good one, especially for research that you can't find based on the internet. Question number 2, what inspired you to pursue the path that you're currently on in your career? Everybody has a career. If they are putting money in their pocket, they are on a career. Even if it's a non-for-profit, no pay career. I was a volunteer fireman for 10 years. I had a volunteer fireman career. But what inspired you, right? There's constantly things that they're going to think about that, once again, changes to that podcast. So the question that you're asking, while it may sound a slight generic, and all of these have to be open-ended, they're going to figure out a way to figure out an inspiration for your audience. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They want to customize and tweak these thoughts to your audience so that they look like a rock star, and you as a host get the best information possible. The stuff that makes people throw their headphones in and not get out of their car before they go to either a meeting because they want to hear that cliffhanger moment. That's number 2. Number 3, can you describe a time when you took a risk that paid off, and how did you make that decision? Everyone's lives are risky. It was risky for me to become a volunteer fireman. It was risky for me to start a podcast. If you go back to some of my old videos, I was shaking when I refer back to the first time I released even a YouTube channel or a YouTube video or a podcast, because I was terrified of what people might think. Once again, these are open-ended questions. It is huge. By you asking that about a time when they took a risk, they are going to mention it being something that not only are they probably want to do some self-promotion, but for you as a host, they are going to tailor that, once again, to your audience. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of your professional career? If you're in a career-focused podcast, this is a home run, because most of the time, people lose sight of the guests' personal life. What do they like to do for fun? Who do they hang out with? What hobbies do they enjoy? Get out of the I need to ask everything for business, because a personal life plays a huge role in how they respond and how they continue to grow their career and why they're actually on your show. Massive change in the guests' thoughts and the way they're going to respond. And by you asking these questions, not necessarily in this order, you're going to make it seem like to the guest that you did your homework, and the guest is going to do what we all want them to do as a host. Let their guard down, feel really comfortable and natural on the podcast, and then additionally, they feel comfortable. They're going to go in a place of vulnerability. You as the host need to make sure that they know it's okay to be vulnerable. And by asking those questions, you're going to get down to the deep roots and the core of what is going on in their lives. What advice would you give someone who is just starting out in your industry? This is a pretty standard one, but if you have doesn't matter, once again, what kind of podcast, chances are pretty good your guest is going to have some kind of interest in being in your show. And for that reason, this is just a middle of the road, great question. This is probably a good opener, or as you've begun to, change paths with the guest or go down a different rabbit hole with the guest, this is a good one to throw in there if you're looking to change the subjects. What is one failure or mistake you made in your career and what did you learn from it? You could take this one step further. How has it impacted you today? And by asking that, and the key thing when you're asking some of these questions that you can tell are heavy hitter questions, pause. Wait 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 4 or 5. I have gotten the best answers out of my guests by sending away that key, because you're giving guests time to process the question, time to process the answer, and give you the gold. And even when they answer, give them another 3 or 4 seconds. I know 3 seconds is a lot. We're going to sit here for 3 seconds. That was 3 seconds. It's a long time. It's a weird thing to not have constant bombardment of questions and back and forth banter to get to the gold. Can you describe a significant accomplishment in your career or personal life? And what did you learn from achieving it? This is another goldmine, because sometimes you may think a achievement is really, really big, but after getting that achievement, it doesn't actually mean anything. If you're a business owner, I'm going to spill out some really bad advice. Your local federal credit union is probably going to run like a best of your area. It is a pay to play, and you're going to learn a very hard lesson that after you win, it's just because you spent the most amount of money with them on their campaigns and their ads. They want to promote you. They don't. They just want the money. They want money in their pocket. They want to build notoriety. And in turn, by them making a bunch of money, they're going to highlight a first place or second place or third place business in those categories. But if you don't get the answer that you want, you might have to tweak it and modify it. Right? So maybe it's career. Hey, what's a massive accomplishment or significant accomplishment in your personal life? And what did you learn from it? Maybe it's having a child. Maybe it's, yes, it might be career focused, but maybe it's going back to school. Maybe it's doing something that they love. Maybe it's picking up Legos as a hobby or smoking cigars as a hobby. Whatever it may be. Maybe it's coffee. Maybe it's these ridiculous clear glasses and they realize that they could finally, make them, or whatever it is. Get creative and begin to change and alter some of these questions. What motivates you to continue pushing forward in your career or personal life? Now, I included career and personal life once again because depending on your show, it may vary tremendously. But everyone has a motivation. I have a motivation for losing weight. I'm losing weight right now. I'm down about 30 or so pounds. Not that you guys needed to know that, but I have a motivation behind it because when I have kids down the road, I want to make sure that I'm there to see my daughter walk down the aisle or son walk down the aisle, or to see them graduate college and see them graduate high school, whatever that is, or go into the trades and become the best that they could possibly be in those trades. That's my reasoning. That's my motivation. Every single person's motivation is going to be very different. Why do they work 100 hours? Why did they become a neurosurgeon? Why did they become the best father that they could be? Why did they become a stay-at-home dad or a home tutoring dad? Whatever it may be. Huge, huge power behind that question. Also, a fantastic opener. Right after you get through the fluff, what motivates you to continue pushing forward in your personal life? They're not ready for that. Give them those 3 seconds, those awkward 3 or 4 seconds, to respond. And if you don't want that 3 or 4 seconds in there, just edit it out. No big deal. It's post-processing. Can you describe a moment in your life that completely changed your perspective or direction? This little demon device has TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and the amount of information that people share on there is huge. Ask those questions. People are more than happy to answer, especially entrepreneurs, business owners. They want to empower other people. So ask them. Describe a moment in your life. What was the key defining factor? Sometimes somebody might say, I had a heart attack, I was in the hospital for 6 weeks, and I needed to really value my time on this planet. Can you tell me more about that? And how do you stay creative and innovative in your work and personal life? And what strategies do you use to overcome creative blocks and challenges? They are going to talk for quite a while on this. This is a probably nail in the coffin. You're wrapping up the podcast. You want one last question there. It doesn't matter how long the podcast goes for. This is a rock solid one. And out of all 10 of these, if you didn't get the answer that you're looking for, I'm gonna give you one more question to ask after all of these that is going to make it worth it, no matter who you interview at any point. Can you tell me more about that? And let it be. I know it sounds crazy, and you're probably like, why? Why would I want to wait, first of all, that long? That 3 or 4 seconds is torture. But secondly, when you ask, can you tell me more about that? You are inviting your guest to continue going in depth and telling you and describing the details and every single thing that you want to know. It's all going to be in there. And those 10 questions, plus, can you tell me more about that, is going to massively change the way you, as a host, interview people or ask questions to people. And 2, your guests are going to become raving fans about your podcast, and they are going to be your best promoters because it sounds like you actually did your homework. It sounds like you cared, and you highlighted all of the best things in their life, from their career to challenging moments to their personal life to what motivates them. These 10 questions are huge in making a massive shift and a massive difference in anybody who is looking to get better information out of their guests and to be a rock star podcaster. Happy podcasting. Jump on my newsletter down below, harrisonbarron.com. Everything that you want to know about podcasting. And if you're interested in any of the gear that I use, it is down in the description as well. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys checking this out, and I'll see you guys later.